Right, hello there ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to today's video. And today we're going to be taking a look at this Nokia Lumia 625. Bit of a different flavour today, mobile phones. It's not usually something I work on, to be honest with you. I don't really like working on mobile phones, I'll be honest. But this one is for a friend who has broken the micro USB charging slot. So we're going to look at repairing this today. Now, unfortunately, the audio quality on this video maybe a little bit questionable again. My laptop, which I use for encoding and recording audio these days, is somewhat out of action. The part I need for that has turned up, but basically this needs to be done now, and the option to fix that first and then record this simply wasn't there. So unfortunately, just for this once, and maybe the repair video for the laptop, obviously, we're just going to have to struggle through for now. So hopefully this isn't going to be too bad. Anyway, so we're going to have a look at this one today. So we need to replace the charging port. Now, he does fiddle a little bit with these things, and he's given me a USB port. Hopefully he's given me the right bloody one. Okay, so we're going to have a look at getting this apart then. So we're going to go and we're going to attack the bottom right hand corner. I'm just going to peel that back. Now, these Lumias have a rather strange sort of back cover setup. It's like a little sort of cap that sits over the back. It just peels off. So anyway, that's that done. So then we've got 8 by the looks of it, Torx screws. These are T5s. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. So we'll go ahead and get those removed. There's one. There's 2. Things just seem to be breaking left, right and centre on me at the moment as far as technology goes. I had my Jovi TP9 tip break. Luckily the replacements for that got in today. My laptop broke. Now my bloody phone's pissing about. What can you do? Anyway, so those are the 8 T5 Torx screws out now. So it looks as though... Now I have done one of these before, but it's going back a good few years. So I think, if I remember rightly now, we've got to attack it with one of these plastic case openers, and it just goes around the top. If I remember rightly. That's how we're going to try and get into this thing anyway. So we just attacked it there, just where that little lip is, and it seemed to want to pop, so we'll just go around the bottom edge and just try prying this up a little bit more. Okay, so we've got them on there now. Okay, so we're just going to attack this top edge. So yeah, as I say, I don't usually work on phones. Phones are not something I enjoy doing any work on whatsoever. So yeah, this phone has a problem with its charging jack apparently, and my mate says it just wobbles around in there, and sort of like, you know, the charging is very intermittent. So, oh, there we go. Lovely jubbly. So as you can see there, there's no ribbon cables or anything on the side of it. This is literally just touch pads there, you know, the contacts there, spring contacts there. There's a couple of copper contact pads there. The springs on the border there. So yeah, there's no ribbons or anything on the back side of that, which is why it just popped off nicely. So we'll stick that to one side. So far we've only had to remove the 8 screws, which are T5. So that's all good. So what we need to do now is, I mean, here's the charging port, as you can see. So we're going to have to try and get that out. Now this is on its own little daughter board. So what we'll do is, we'll take the battery off first, I think. So that's just on this little push ribbon there. And by the looks of it, I don't think it's screwed. It's probably just stuck in place on a bit of sticky tape, I think. Indeed it is. Sony 13 watt battery. Interesting. Yeah, indeed. Just a little sticky pad there, so if you get it from this end, you should be able to lift it quite easily. We've then got this small flat flex ribbon here and a BNC connector there, which is probably for the antenna. So we'll pop those. Just be careful with this little BNC connector, because they're fairly fragile. The board itself doesn't seem like it'd take too much strain. It's very, very thin, is this little board here. I don't want to give it too much welly, really, because it looks like it'd break quite easily, to be honest. So we're just going to get underneath it as best we can with the tweezers. I think it's probably glued. Is it? Unless it's clipped. There we go. Okay, that's got it. So as you can see, it looks like it's just clipped in there at the back, and then it just lifts forward. So that's really easy to get out of there. I'm quite nicely impressed with that little bit of design there. That's quite nice. So we've got the charging board out of there now. So now it's a case of whether, I'm trying to get a bit of zoom in there. Alright. So there she is. So now it's a case of whether we've actually got the right charging port for this. So it looks as though, it's kind of difficult to see really, because it's covered in a fair old amount of dust. Funnily enough, while I'm just cleaning this off, I actually deleted some video from the SD card, and it hasn't knocked off since. But despite there being plenty of space on it, so we might just give the card a format, I think, at the end of this video when we've got everything off. So there does seem to be quite a bit of dust and dirt and cruddy sort of horrible stuff behind the back of this port. Probably fluff, lint, dust, you know, which is all going to make our life a little bit more difficult. It looks as though there's like a little protective cover over the port. It's like this this metal shield at the top here doesn't actually look as though it's joined onto the port itself. It looks like it sits over the top, presumably just to give it a little bit more strength, I think. All will become clear when we try to lift this off anyway. So we're going to give that a bit of heat, I think. So we're going to go with the air station, and I don't really want to give this this board too much of a pasting with heat, because like I say, it's very, very thin. It doesn't give me the greatest amount of confidence that it would actually take a lot of abuse, shall we say. So I'm just going to pop a dab of flux on the back of the USB port and onto the ground pins here. I'm going to get our air wand. Indeed, it's just a little metal cover that sits over the top. So the port itself I think the one he's given us should work. Tell you what though. I don't think this foamy stuff likes too much heat, so I'm just going to peel it off. That's the beauty of it being a really thin circuit board. It doesn't take any persuasion to give up its so that's really cool. So I'm just going to go clean that up a little bit, I think. Let's just see if the replacement port he's given us will actually fit, shall we? Okay, so it turns out my mate gave me the wrong port. So I had to go get a new one, so we ordered that in, and that's here now. So, as you can see there, we've just inserted the port through the holes on the board. We cleaned that off using a little bit of desolder braid to empty them. Because it's a nice thin board, even this little fine tip was enough to actually get rid of it. So we're just going to tack the port into place now. So the port is sat in the holes, and it's roughly in the position it needs to be in. The pins at the rear might need a little tiny bit of adjustment, possibly, but we'll see once we get it in situ. So we're just going to pop a little bit of flux onto these two ground pins here at the end, and the same on the other side. And then we'll get a tiny drop of leaded solder on the end of our iron. And we'll get some fume extraction in, so this might get a little bit noisy now. And we'll just tack these end pins into position. Okay, so that's one side done. That's the other side done. So we're just going to check the alignment on these pins at the back. They do look like they need a tiny little bit of adjustment. So I'm just going to go and nudge them across onto there. To the final resting place there, and as before, just going to tiny drop of flux into the back of those pins, and as before, we're just going to tack these into position now using a tiny drop of leaded solder. nice fine solder tips here coming to their own really when you're doing fiddly little work like this. Shield on, of course, back over the top, which just protects the USB port from any sort of knocks or damage. We'll just lead those two pins in there at the back. And again, that's all relatively easily accomplished. Jubbly. So that's all done there now. As you can see there at the back, ports dropped in place. It's a nice tight fit. So what we're going to do is we're just going to run a little bit of IPA over the top of this board now, just to make sure we get any flux residue. Any dirt that may have got in there. So I don't know if you remember when we took this board off, there's a bit of all the old pocket lint and things in there, some fluff and really nasty stuff. And there we go. So that's one replaced port for our Nokia Lumia. So let's go and reassemble this and give it a test and see if it works. So here's the phone in question, complete with its horrible screen protector, but what can you do? So we've got a USB lead here, and that's all plugged in. So without further ado, let's see if we get any power. And there we go. So and there we go. So the battery's completely flat in this, so that's now going to charge. And you know, so that's looking good. So my mate now owes me one, so that's all cool. So I'll see you guys and girls on the next vid. Hopefully the next vid is going to be me fixing my laptop so we can get back to some encoding and getting some more videos recorded and uploaded, and hopefully that'll mean the return of some nice audio. So fingers crossed. Yeah, just as a side note, just as I ended the video there, it actually fired itself back up. So that's all good. So I'll see you on the next vid, as I say, and bye bye for now.